But like I said in my opening monologue, do we even like? Should we even be worried with that when there's self-proclaimed first grade teachers boasting that my favorite moments are when my students ask about my queerness? I mean, this is bad. So a reputed, this is their language in the article, a reputed first grade teacher who said she has her students refer to her as professor because she eschews the term Mr. and Mrs. in her classroom, also boasted that her favorite moments are always when my students ask about my queerness. All right. I got some thoughts. Marcus, you up first or me? It's all on you, buddy.
Professor, what are we at? Hogwarts?
I know.
I'm sorry.
Oh, my goodness. Professor. Professor. Yes, little Timmy. Oh, my goodness. So a lot of this is about the reputed first grade teacher. I'm just going to assume it's true for the outrage that can and should ensue from this. But also,
my thing is like, it's talk about my favorite thing is when my students ask about my queerness. You're a teacher that's supposed to be excited to teach kids. Your favorite thing should be teaching kids about everyday life, how to read, how to write,
the hard
how to
concepts that they
simple
need to
addition.
know. The concrete concepts that they need to know in first grade. I mean, most first graders can't even come up with that. Can't really truly think about the abstract ideas that is gender fluidity and all that. They just, their brains are not developed enough.
They can't even do the square root of 4. So I mean, you think they know about gender fluidity and queerness?
Well, they are if this teacher is in charge of them.
No, professor.
Yeah, this professor. There you go. Honestly, though, you think she could come up with something other than professor? I mean, could you be any more egotistical? Also, why are you going to go with the most boring idea you can come up with? I mean, you already live in your own fantasy world, apparently. Why not go for broke? How about like something like Supreme Potentate of Classroom 32? At least then you could teach them a new word.
Headmaster.
Yeah, headmaster. There we go. How about, I got you one. How about Zorp, the two-headed non-binary dragon? I mean, it makes just as much sense as they're saying there's no Mr. or Mrs. I got it. She can have them call her Sith Lord Darth Verderber, which is German for corruption. I thought that would play a lot better. I mean, she can corrupt them without their parents knowing that way. Like, come up with something interesting. You have 6-year-olds. But also, you have 6-year-olds. There's a very real issue about talking about your sexuality with 6-year-olds. Like I said before, Brave New World is not a guide, people. First graders do not need to know about your queerness. They don't need to know who you're married to. Definitely don't need to meet them. It says later on in the article that they've met her wife. So, yay them. Honestly, Marcus, when I was in first grade, I legitimately thought my teacher lived at the school and teaching us math and English and how to read and basic science were like the only thing she did in her life. Like, she existed in her classroom. That was it. That was all. Because that's all they really need to know. Yeah, that's all that first graders need to know about their teacher. They don't need to know their, gender queer things.
I didn't really understand that teachers had a life outside of school until like 3rd grade.
Yeah, I know.
And then it's like you don't even realize it.
The first time you see a teacher outside of school, you're like, is that? No. They let her out?
And it's like, I don't even know if I ever saw one of my teacher's spouses at school my entire career.
No, I don't think so either.
And you never heard about it until like high school.
Yeah, I know. Like up until high school, you didn't even realize teachers were married. I think the only reason I knew a teacher was married in middle school was because she was pregnant. So the account, this all comes from a Tinder account of, not Tinder, a Twitter account by someone named Nalo. That's all it is. Nalo, turtle, something or another. The account continued, I was asked recently during a podcast interview why I don't use Mrs. or Mr. to refer to myself. And I asked her why I needed to. Because you're human. Human are a dimorphic species. If you were an annelid worm, the worm that you fish with, you wouldn't need to. Because they produce asexually. But then again, if you were, and I asked you if you were Mr. or Mrs., I would probably be imagining you from my rubber room. But instead you teach kids there's no gender. And should probably be in that rubber room yourself. Marcus, should she be in the rubber room? Marcus, are you there?
I believe so. But there's a lot of things I believe that aren't in fruition today. So
I mean, this is mental. This is mental sickness. It has to be, unless it's either mental sickness or willful throwing away of the truth and believing in a lie, like to the point where truth just like can't break through to you anymore. Anyways, then Nalo, I hope I'm saying that right, wrote of the magic of curiosity of her young students, adding, but the truth is, it has never been children that struggle with adjusting to the complexities of human experience. My students are 6 to 7 years old, and they are still steeped in the magic of curiosity. And this is particularly heinous. I actually agree with her that kids are steeped in the magic of curiosity. They are in their formative years. That's why pushing this non-scientific, absurd, fantasy viewpoint on them is morally criminal. You aren't just pushing them into trying to live a lie, like people who try to force their kids to transition, which is bad enough. You are also forcing them to live your lie. So, again, might as well just take a coin and, flip it. Maybe they'll survive if they're lucky. She referred to her students as turtles, bragging, my students know about and have met my wife at school. They know I'm queer, and the turtles will call anybody out for calling me Mrs. Anything. I told them my story once and never needed to say it again. If only adults adjusted so quickly and easily, it may save many of our lives. First of all, turtles. She has this weird thing with turtles. If you went into her Twitter feed, you'd realize that she has this whole thing about turtles. I couldn't actually search far enough down her Twitter feed because it was that bad. So I don't know what it is, but I don't know. Maybe she's a turtle sexual. I don't know. It's weird. Also, I don't believe you when you said you had to tell these 6-year-olds only once your entire story. I just don't. This actually makes me wonder if she ever met a kid or was ever one. Maybe they just did secret experiments on a turtle and this is what happened. What do you think, Marcus?
I don't think I've ever seen a kid listen the first time
to anything.
I mean, you have kids, even all the way up to high school. Even adults have problems listening. I mean, it's like back whenever you had the military training a couple weeks ago, whenever it was. You told me about it like 3 or 4 times because I kept saying, when is it again? And you told me about it like 3 or 4 times.
So what you're saying is you're a bad friend.
Yes. Anyways. But at least I remembered you had it, okay?
Yeah.
But you think a 6-year-old's gonna remember this entire story whenever it's hard enough to remember some of your closest friends' exact dates for stuff, and I find that hard to believe. I've known too many 6, 7-year-olds that have the memory span of half a goldfish. So
maybe this is what they mean by reputed first grade teacher. But you know what's funny? You know what would actually save the lives of people who are who transition? Before they do that, calling this what it is, a mental illness that leads to a life lived apart from reality. The brain doesn't like you trying to break from reality. To the tune of 41% of people try to, of brains that trying to live apart from reality, try to turn themselves off forcefully and forever. And unfortunately, those that succeed just find themselves in literal hell. So congratulations, leftists. You're doing a great job there. It's a terrible thing. Thankfully, not everybody is this crazy yet. There are a few people that fired back. One mom fired back, so you'd rather your first grade student ask you about your sex life than the education you are supposed to be giving them. No first grader is going to ask you about your queerness unless you talk about it to them first. 100% on the mark. They don't even know what that means. Gross. And then actor Adam Baldwin, sexualizing first graders in loco parentis is abject evil. And he's 100% correct. If you don't know what loco parentis means, it means in the place of parents. Generally forcing, when kids are forced to live a lie that their parents are forcing on them. And that's close enough to teachers. Let's see. Reagan Battalion, you should not teach your 6-year-old students about sexuality or sex, whether you are straight, gay, or non-binary. This has to be said, this has to be said as an indictment against our education system. What this turns into is another reason parents need to be actively engaged in their kids' schools. With the school boards and you got to be engaged with the schools, with the school boards, and personally know their teachers. Just remember, in America, the governed are governed by the consent. The governed... It's a tongue twister. It's a tongue twister. Are you ready for this? The governors only govern at the consent of the governed, and the teachers work for you. Seems like they need to be reminded of that, or at least this one does.